Welcome back. I hope you have seen the explanation video involving the porter, and now we are face to face with Macbeth. Macduff has inquired whether his master is awake, and that's when Macbeth enters. Our knocking has awakened him. Here he comes. Lenox says, "Good morning, noble sir." Macbeth says, "Good morning, both of you. Is the king stirring?" That is, whether the King Duncan is awake. Worthy Thane, Macbeth says, "Not yet. He did command me to call timely on him. I have almost slipped the hour." So Macduff says that I've almost missed the hour, that the time he had asked me to wake him up at a particular time, and I've almost missed that particular time because of the delay he doesn't say it, obviously, because of the delay in opening the gate. So if you get a question, reasoning questions, why does Macduff says that he has missed the hour of waking up the king? Because the porter took an inordinate amount of time in order to open the gates to the castle. So Macbeth says, "I will bring you to him." So anytime, whenever you are reading the thing, apart from the different reasoning questions that I would give, it always makes sense to kind of any sentence you're reading, you think about it and whether that can become a reasoning question. So that would be a useful exercise to do, and will also keep you extremely involved in the play. "I will bring you to him. I know this is a joyful trouble to you, but yet it is one." So Macduff says that I know hosting the king, and referring, this is pretty much similar to the kind of conversation that King Duncan had with Lady Macbeth when he was about to enter the castle, that hosting the king is both a joy and trouble, but that does not mean that it is not a trouble, right? You're hosting the king, the most powerful person in the kingdom. So it is both joy and trouble, but it does not mean that it is not a trouble. Macbeth says, the labor we delight in physics pain, that this is the door. So he says that the work we enjoy removes the pain of the effort. When we enjoy something, it doesn't seem to be an extremely painful kind of, all the effort that you put in. If you, like, for instance, if you enjoy singing or if you enjoy painting, and there is a lot of effort that goes into, doing the riyaz, or actually, using the colors and imagining all the creativity, etc. But if you enjoy the process, then it doesn't seem to be so much of a hassle. Similarly, I would tell you, you enjoy the process of reading literature, then it will not seem like so much of a burden to you. Instead of just reading it 2 days or 3 days before the examination and say, "Ye question karna hai." Every week, that's what I always tell the students, every week allot a specific amount of time which you would allot to English literature, and focus the major part of your time to your physics, chemistry, maths, bio, commerce, accountancy, economics, geography, history, political science, whatever. But devote a certain amount of time to literature every week, so that you are in touch with the subject. And when you do so, ensure that you are in the frame of mind to say that मैं enjoy करने वाला हूँ, आज कुछ मजा आने वाला है, आज कुछ नया सीखने को मिलेगा. If you have that kind of an approach, you would not have any problem. Okay. Now, he says that I know that hosting the king. Okay, ये तो हो गया. So physics means cures. Physics in this particular case cures pains. Physics is used as a verb, and it means cures pains, that the work we enjoy cures the pain of the effort. This is the door, and he leads him to the room in which King Duncan is sleeping. "I will make so bold to call, for it is my limited service." So Macduff says that I will wake him up. Bold to call means I will wake him up because that's my appointed duty. Limited service means that is my appointed duty. That's what I have been appointed to do. Lenox, and after Macduff has left that particular scene, Lenox says, "Is the king leaving today?" Macbeth says, "He does. That's what he did appoint so." That's what I'm given to understand. He told us to arrange for it. Now Lenox refers to the knight that was there. Okay, and we already know a little bit about it because of the earlier conversation, right? The night has been unruly. Where we lay, our chimneys were blown down, and as they say, lamentings heard in the air. Now, Lenox says that the night was extremely unruly, and where we were sleeping, the place where we were sleeping, probably referring to both him and Macduff, the wind blew down the chimneys, people were saying that they heard cries of grief. Lamentings means, rona dona, cries of grief in the air and strange screams of death. Again, you see, it is an indication that the outside elements of nature were also reflecting what was happening inside the castle. The dark deed of regicide. What is regicide? Let me write that spelling. नया वर्ड होगा, सुना नहीं होगा आपने. Regicide means the act of killing a king or taking part or helping in the act of killing a king. That is called regicide. Please use this in your answers. Okay, please use this in your answers. So he says that people were saying that they had heard cries of grief, lamentings in the air, and strange screams of death and terrifying voices with a terrible accent predicting catastrophe. Okay, predicting, prophesizing, pretty much like the witches, predicting with accents terrible. The way they spoke, it all sounded very terrible, of dire combustion and confused events, new hash to the woeful time. So all these are kind of negative kind of terminologies, right? Accents terrible, woeful time, confused events, strange screams of death. So please, if you are kind of, talking about the atmosphere at the time of the killing, you can actually refer to and use all these keywords because they're kind of talking about the atmosphere at that point in time. So he says combustion is referring to fire. Fire again refers to something very unnatural because you wouldn't find a fire, generally just like, being lit up. So he says all the commotion that will result in the beginning of an awful time. New hatch to the woeful time. New hatch. Hatched means something which is newly born, right? Newly born. So all this will result in a terrible time to come. So these are not good omens. These are not things which will make you feel good ki kuch acha hone wala hai. No, on the contrary, it makes you feel that something terrible is about to time. So new hatch to the woeful time. So the bad times, the terrible times are about to start. The hoot of an owl. Okay. The obscure bird is a reference to the ullu. Okay. The obscure bird. So anytime you have to refer to the owl, you can use this particular key phrase. Clamored the livelong night. That is, it kind of hooted all through the night. The hoot of the owl persisted all through the night when all these kind of natural events were also happening. And people say that there was an earthquake, that the earth shook from a fever. Some say the earth was feverish. That is, when it is fevering, when it is running fever, it will kind of shake, right? The body will kind of shiver. And the earth, so this is a case of what? It's a case of personification, that the earth has been personified as running a fever and thereby shaking, and this is a reference to a possible earthquake that also took place through the night, okay, in the night, and did shake. Okay, so that's what he's referring to. Macbeth is a man of few words at this point in time. He says it was a rough night. He just says one line. My young remembrance cannot parallel a fellow to it. So Lenox says, Lenox, who is a young person, he says, I am too young to remember anything similar having happened before. At least in my limited experience, I haven't experienced anything of this sort that has happened before. At this point of time, that's when Macduff enters. So Lenox has remarked on the extraordinary and rather scary weather of the night before, and the description which includes the tremors in the night of the earth, the earthquake, the winds, the wailing voices, the obscure bird, that is the owl. It suggests a direct connection between the events happening inside and what is happening outside in the atmosphere, what is happening inside the castle and what is happening outside. So again, Shakespeare through the play, whether it is with reference to the heath where the witches appear, the kind of atmosphere in which they appear, every time the elements are not perfect. It's not like perfect sunshine at any point in time. It's always giving you a very spooky kind of feel. It's a very weird and strange kind of, oh God, I'm getting goosebumps when I'm talking this. It always gives you a very spooky kind of feel whenever you are experiencing anything in Macbeth. So Macbeth in that sense is a very dark play, where a lot of negative things happen and they reflect themselves in the kind of atmosphere around in the play. Okay. At that stage, Macduff enters and says, "Oh, horror, horror, horror! Tongue nor heart cannot conceive nor name thee." So Macduff says, this is beyond words and beyond belief. That is, tongue nor heart cannot conceive nor name, right? So none of the senses can actually describe what I have just now seen. That is, I cannot describe it, and I cannot believe it, and it cannot be named either, right? Macbeth and Lenox says, "What is the matter? Confusion now hath made his masterpiece. Most sacrilegious murder hath broke open the Lord's anointed temple and stole thence the life of the building." So Macduff says the worst possible thing, the worst possible destruction has taken place. A murderer has broken into the God's temple and stolen the life from it. So the killing reference to the body of the king, that is, his life has been taken away. So his chamber is like the temple of God, and his life has been taken away. So he says, stolen the life from it and stolen the life of the building. Who is the life of the building? King Duncan, who has been murdered inside his chamber. Macbeth, what is it you say? The life, mean you, his majesty, approach the chamber and destroy your sight with the new Gorgon. Do not bid me speak, see and then speak yourselves. So Macduff says, go into the bedroom, the chamber yourself, and you will be shocked and frozen with horror, as if you had seen a Gorgon. Now, what is this Gorgon? The story goes in Greek mythology that the Gorgons were monsters. That is, you will be shocked as if you have seen a Gorgon, because the Gorgons were monsters as per Greek mythology, and anyone who saw a Gorgon turned into stone. So what he's trying to say is that the moment you see it, you will be like completely stupefied and frozen, because you're seeing such a terrible sight, as if you have seen a Gorgon, because whoever saw a Gorgon would turn into stone. And the most well-known Gorgon was Medusa, who had snakes in place of hair. And Macduff means to say that the figure of the murdered king is as terrible a sight as a Gorgon would be. Okay, so he says, do not ask me to describe it. Do not bid me speak. Do not ask me to describe what I have seen inside the chamber. You go yourself and then look at death yourself, right? Go and describe it yourself. So then while Macbeth and Lenox exit the scene, he says, wake, wake, ring the alarm bell, murder and treason, Banquo and Donalbain, Malcolm, awake. Shake off this downy sleep, death's counterfeit, and look on death itself. Death's counterfeit is sleep. When you are sleeping, it's almost as if you are dead, but you are not dead. So it is a fake representative of death, which is why sleep is referred to as death's counterfeit. Remember this. This is again something which you can use, because sleep is an important theme in Macbeth. Perhaps not so much in the first two acts, but in the later part of the play. Remember this particular key phrase, because you can use it, because Lady Macbeth sleepwalks. She cannot sleep. Macbeth also is completely out of his mind. So you could use this kind of a phrase of death's counterfeit at that stage. So just make a note of it, mark with the red pen. You would be able to use it next year in class 12. Okay. So he says, wake up, ring the alarm bell, murder and treason. And he calls to Banquo, he calls to Donalbain, he calls to Malcolm. He says, awake, shake off your sleep, the fake image of death, and look at death itself, right? Up and see the great doom's image. Malcolm, Banquo, as from your graves, rise up and walk like sprites to countenance this horror, ring the bell. So he says, get up and see a sight as terrible as the day of judgment itself. That's the day of judgment, which is the great doomsday image, reference to the day of judgment. And he says, get up from your bed as if you are getting off from your graves, rise and walk like ghosts to see this horror. So he's kind of, giving this imagery of something so terrible and horrible which has actually taken place. So he's reinforcing the theme of the day of judgment. Again, the entire revenge theme will take place in the second half of the play. So again, this part is something which would find some kind of resonance there. So just make a note of it. Not that you need to you will be asked questions from what has happened in Act 2, Scene 3 in your class 12. Nevertheless, if you quote from it, you would find it easier when you are doing so, right? So right now itself, do that so that you have the reference material ready for anything to be used in class 12, especially the death's counterfeit kind of a key phrase. So I'm pausing part 2 video out here. I hope it's clear till here. Now Lady Macbeth will enter, right? So we'll go through part 3 and part 4 so that this Act 2 Scene 3 is taken care of. Tata, bye-bye.